Pregnant wife whom I caught cheating with neighbor is mad that I threw him out of my house because he might be a dad of my kid. This literally happened this morning. I'm posting it here and hoping to vent and maybe get some perspective because I've been extremely upset all day and can't process this productively. My wife is 8 months pregnant with our child. We live next to another married couple who are in their late 30s. I don't like the guy. I found him to be invasive and the weird type of friendly that almost seems to be prying and clingy. I'm not sure if that's clouding my judgment here or if this validated my beliefs about him. I left for work, decided on the way there I just wasn't feeling it and called off. I stopped for breakfast before heading home to surprise my wife. 40 minutes tops. I get home, enter from the back door, and here's my wife and my neighbor sitting in our living room on the couch. She's turned toward him, fully clothed but with her shirt pulled up over her very pregnant stomach while he, facing her, is rubbing lotion on her stomach with both hands. They both froze, before my wife asked how come I was back and then said, his name, stopped by to borrow the toolbox while I was moisturizing, and wanted to know if he could feel the baby so I said okay. I told him to get out before I put him out, and he left immediately. I tried to stay calm and talk to her and get the whole story. Neighbor's wife is apparently infertile, first I heard of it, which is amazing, considering the guy never shuts up about his personal woes, and he wanted to feel the baby. That's her story, and she's sticking to it. That's not good enough for me. My thought process is there's a big difference between feeling a baby for 10 seconds and coming into our home and rubbing lotion on my wife's stomach. If it was some close friend of ours I might understand, but I dislike the guy and my wife has never expressed any sort of closeness to him either aside from passing pleasantries, and she's not the type to let anyone she isn't close to put their hands on her. So in the span on a day, the guy goes from being a distant acquaintance of hers at best to her deciding to invite him in and let him rub her? I also find it convenient that he showed up that early, right after I went to work, very shortly after his own wife also left for work. And he's never came over asking to borrow anything of mine before, yet 9:30ish in the morning and he urgently needs a toolbox? I don't believe my wife. This is the first time my trust in her hasn't been strong enough. I don't believe her story because it makes no sense. When I told her I'd be mentioning this to his wife, she was adamant I don't, as not to make more of it than it is. If it was innocent, what more is there to make? And even if nothing more is going on, I'm not okay with what I seen. I'm not okay with him rubbing my unborn child in my home without me there. I know it's her body and her choice, but I'm not okay with this. It'd be one thing to feel the baby kick, but he was sitting reclined, comfortably on our sofa, rubbing lotion on her with both leaned into their private conversation. I'm trying really hard to figure out how to express the fact I don't believe her story without causing stress that'd be dangerous for her or our baby. I don't want to pick a fight with her at this stage of her pregnancy, but at the same time my mind is spinning and I'm not cool with what happened. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. This will be my only update, and I'm only posting it due to the amount of support I've gotten as well as the numerous requests to do so. I didn't expect the response I got and I've unfortunately seen it referenced on other subreddits, so I'm choosing to confront it. Most of you were right. Congratulations. I read through all of your replies and spoke to friends, and stewed for a day. My wife stuck to her story, apologized for making me uncomfortable and assured me it wouldn't happen again. Bob decided to leave a handwritten note in the mailbox specifically apologizing as well. I still didn't feel better, and the consensus was that I should speak to my neighbor's wife, who we're going to call Sally, so that's what I did. Watched my neighbor leave for work, then called my MIL to come take my wife for a lunch and a girls' date so she could get out of the house. I left as usual for work, called off again and went to stay with a friend. Got a text from my wife around noon telling me she was with MIL and would be back by dinner. Went home and knocked on Sally's door. Bob decided to tell Sally I kicked him out and caused a scene about not wanting either of them speaking to us anymore because I was pissed about him helping my wife. Come to find out both Sally and Bob have been going over to my house while I was away busy for the past few weeks as my wife had approached her and asked if they would be willing to lend a hand with chores she could no longer do alone. Sometimes Sally went over and did small tasks or just hung out, sometimes both, sometimes just Bob. Wife told her I knew and was fine with it, and that's why she was confused when her husband told her his bullcrap about me being mad. She showed me where she texted my wife, has her number, not mine, to clarify and ask if she was welcome over, and my wife hasn't replied, and since I don't often see Sally or socialize with them, she just assumed her husband was telling the truth. She also admitted that she noticed Bob and my wife becoming fast friends and figured it was due to the pregnancy, but thought it was his way of dealing with their own inability to have kids, so she wrote it off. I told her what I walked in on. I told her about the tools, which ended up being bullcrap too. Came to the same conclusions. Both cried. Both hugged for the first time. Both took turns denying and accepting and talking each other down. Took a walk around the block together and conspired. She planned to call Bob at work and say that my wife messaged her confessing to the two of them having an affair, and seeing what happened. Went back to my friends. Started having major panic attacks, thinking I screwed up, I was about to ruin my marriage, worrying I might be wrong. Bit later, and I get a call from my wife screaming at me to find a way to leave work and come home. So I go home. Bob called her telling her what Sally told him. She told me I was crazy, I was a piece of crap, that she was considering leaving me, everything. Having a panic attack thinking I just ruined my entire life over nothing while also trying to calm her down for the baby's sake. Impulsively told her that if she was leaving, I'd still be requesting a DNA test. And that's when it all came down. Entire tone changed. Pleading, begging, apologizing, hyperventilating, holding me. Asking me how I found out while denying anything happened. I told her it'd be okay and asked if she'd talk to me if we went for a drive. She agreed. Took us to a parking lot and we talked, told her if there was any chance of anything happening she needed to tell me what was happening because I already knew a lot. She'd ducked Bob a handful of times before she was pregnant. Our baby might not be ours. Bob had been coming by and doing daddy duties once in a blue moon in case it's his. They didn't do it together in months. She said we could move away, that it's ours no matter what, that he had manipulated her. Admitted she lied to Sally to justify Bob going over for daddy duties. I asked her if she'd stay with Mil for a few days while I calmed down. She agreed, took her home, packed up some stuff and dropped her off. I've cleaned out my essentials and I'm in a friend's basement. Friend called her on my behalf and told her that if the baby is mine I'll be dealing with it, if it isn't it's on her, but either way I'll be filing for divorce. My friends took my phone from me and deleted my social media. She's been calling my friends told her to duck off. I spoke to my boss and he's been very understanding. Last I heard from Sally, Bob hadn't been home and stopped responding to her calls and texts. I have nothing left. In less than a week, my life has fallen apart. The only thing keeping me here is the small chance that baby is mine. I have nothing else. I woke up today, disappointed I woke up at all. I've never felt this alone, and I haven't accepted any of it yet. I'm praying for the first time in my life that I can stop feeling this way and find strength. Final update. Don't know if anyone will remember my original posts, as they were deleted and I have yet to be informed of why even after messaging the mod team. Don't know if this will be deleted either. If anyone wants, they can use remove it to see the posts if they aren't visible from my profile. I'm still getting messages on a regular basis for an update, so this is the final one. Extremely long story made slightly less long. A week after my last update my soon-to-be ex-wife had our child, which I was at the hospital for. I'm the father. The first few weeks after my last update were extremely difficult, with family/friends on both sides adding to the drama. Thankfully, I've had an overwhelming amount of support from not only from the vast majority of people I know in my personal life, but from all of you as well. My wife and I agreed to sit down and discuss things after she was discharged, in my friend's basement with my friend upstairs, in case I needed the support. She came over, and we basically said everything we needed to say. I exploded and said a lot of mean crap. Most of which I regret, some I don't. She spent the whole time apologizing and begging me to take her back and give our family a chance to survive everything that happened. Went on for about an hour like this until I accepted that there was nothing left to say and I have zero romantic love for her anymore, and she accepted that we need to focus on our daughter above all else. We're agreeing to figure out a custody split amicably, and to eventually co-parent more actively together when wounds heal, but our marriage is over. She has the potential to be a wonderful mother, but she failed me as a wife, and my sole focus right now is how to get myself mentally to where I need to be the best father possible. We plan to eventually sell the home, but right now I'm staying in an apartment. Sally is leaving Bob. He's apparently staying with his mother, and still refused to speak to Sally directly. According to her, the last thing that was passed along to her is that he understands what he did, he's sorry he hurt her, he loves her and won't contest a divorce. She's struggling to handle everything and lacks a support system, so we're developing a friendship, mostly two wounded people leaning on each other, and I'm doing my best. She plans to start therapy too. And no, I don't plan to be anything more than platonic friends with Sally. Lovely woman, but no. I still haven't fully processed my new role as a parent. I think mentally I already convinced myself my child wouldn't be mine in case it ended up that way. I plan to take classes and spend more time with my daughter doing early bonding. I'm terrified, but very happy. I know there's a lot left to do, and a lot of hurting left to go through, but I'm stable, and a dad. That's what matters most. My wife of 6 years cheated on me. My wife and I have been married for 6 years. We met shortly after our previous marriages ended and fell in love. Fast. It's been great. We have disagreements like all couples do, but we've had a great life together, and for the first time in my life I felt really loved. Until I found out 3 weeks ago that she cheated on me. Small backstory: I suffer from anxiety and depression. In the past 6 months I noticed not feeling right, and after urging from my wife I finally reached out to a new doctor to try different medications. My wife's daughter also has anxiety and depression. So my wife comes home and deals with this from all sides. I agree it must be hard, but she says the past few months it had been harder and harder to deal with my depression. I didn't want to go anywhere, I didn't want to do anything, and I probably wasn't a fun person to be around. I admit I didn't try as hard as I should have to improve my mental health until apparently it was too late. My wife has a group of friends she goes to rock concerts with. Never really been my thing, so I've always been fine with her going without me. It's her time with friends, and then I get time to myself. I'm kind of a homebody. Well, one of the guys in her group is the guy she cheated on me with. She said she had been good friends with him for 3 years, and just in the month leading up to her cheating, she had started flirting with him. She decided to spend the weekend away, alone, to try and clear her head because she claimed it was really hard living in a home with people who were always negative. It was that weekend away when she cheated. And I should have known it. She hates to be alone, so the idea of her going by the lake for a weekend alone should have been a red flag. When I found out my mind was set, we need a divorce. Get your things and get out. I want nothing to do with you. For those first 2 days I was so hurt. So angry. But so set on starting my life over again. And my wife was begging me to come home. She said marriages can survive this, and she doesn't know why she did what she did, and she wants to work it out. I didn't. But once the shock wore off, I thought about how the past 6 years of my life have been the best of my life. This was out of character for her. She is the absolute last person in the world I would have imagined would cheat on me. She was such a loving and caring wife up until recently. So I called her up, told her I'd like to talk. This was about 5 days after I found out. She came over and I laid it out. I said I wanted to make this work. I want her to come back home and we need to see if we can make this last. But she said she didn't want to. Her explanation is that there's something clearly wrong for her to do that. Wrong with the marriage, and wrong with her head. She said she has lined up an apartment and she is going to move out. at that moment she said she doesn't know if we can work it out. So, I ask her, is it because she's still talking to her friend she did it with? And she said, well, she isn't leaving me for him, he's 16 years younger than her, wants kids, etc. Things she doesn't. And he lives 2 hours away. She said she likes him. And that as long as she has those feelings for him, she couldn't start to work on us. So that's where I'm at. Broken hearted, beaten up twice. I want us to make it work. I've never felt a love like ours. And I know I have to give her space so she can figure this out. But it's just so hard. I've lost 26 pounds in 24 days. I'm a physical and emotional wreck. All while trying to get my anxiety and depression under control. I did find out yesterday from a mutual friend that her friend she's been talking to hasn't been flirting with her anymore, has kind of slowed communication with her, and she's disappointed. This feels like a midlife crisis, where she liked the attention and figured while we're separated she can talk to him to get her serotonin. Please help with any advice or reach out if anyone wants to talk. I am quite literally all alone in this. All of my friends were hers first, so she got the support system. I have nothing. Update. I'm almost 7 weeks from D-Day and the pain is still there. Stronger than ever on some days. Not much has changed between my wife and I at this point. She's still confused and we aren't working on things together. Instead, we're working on ourselves apart. Her idea of working on herself, I believe, is trying to indulge in her newfound freedom. I've been seeing a therapist weekly and really truly working on myself. Something I discovered about myself with the help of a friend is that I am codependent on my wife. My happiness completely revolved around her. When she was happy, I was happy. When she was sad, I was sad. She was my entire identity. So when she left, I had nothing left. I'm working on making myself stronger every day. Now that I know I have codependency issues, I'm addressing those and trying to make myself more independent. Right now, I wouldn't be good for anyone. Even in a new relationship, I would just cling to my partner and set myself up for more hurt down the road. For those of us who want to reconcile, try and dig deep within yourself first. Really figure out why it is you want to reconcile. Years of great memories and a happy marriage? Sure, those are absolutely reasons to try and work through this betrayal. But be sure you're not doing it because your spouse, quite literally, was a part of you. We all need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet emotionally. That's what I'm learning. I don't know how my story will end. I'm not even 100% sure I want to reconcile anymore. I've got no contact with my wife, so I can try and concentrate on what matters most right now, me. Update. I'm coming up on 11 weeks after D-Day, and I'm about to sit down with my wife and make her decide what she wants. I don't want divorce, but she's forced my hand. I can't keep living like this. I have had this feeling since the very beginning of this ordeal that she wanted to date around and be free while holding on to me as her backup plan. After a conversation last week, it was all but confirmed, as she detailed her dating to me one night when she was annoyed by me talking about trying to save our marriage. She purposely pushed me away by telling me hurtful things. The next morning I woke up and I knew it was over. I cannot have our marriage in limbo while she shops for a replacement. To me, this isn't trying to figure things out. She said she thinks she might miss what she had with us if she dates, and I 100% disagree. So I can't live like this anymore. I want to flat out end it, but my therapist thinks it would make more sense if I confront her with a choice. Tell her I want her to stop talking to any and all guys she's dating and try to fix our broken marriage, or she is the one that's choosing divorce. This doesn't allow her to play the victim, since she has a choice in this. I don't want a divorce, but I will not continue to live this way. She has given me zero indication she wants to work things out over the past several weeks. Instead, she has used me for help with certain things that, now looking back, she should have just asked one of the many guys she's dating to help her with. I'm so angry and hurt all at once. I'd say there is less than a 1% chance she tells me she wants to work things out. Instead, I anticipate a battle where she doesn't want to say the word divorce because she doesn't want to be the bad guy. She'll tell me I haven't given her enough time and that I'm always pushing for us to work things out. Well, nearly 3 months is more than long enough to decide if you want to stay with your husband. I have lost 33 pounds. My mental health is shot. I can barely concentrate at work. I spend most of my time sitting on the couch at home and not moving because this not knowing if my wife still wants me is slowly destroying me. But Friday, when we sit down to talk, it'll be the light at the end of the tunnel. With all signs pointing to divorce, at least I will know. I started this journey after my wife spent a weekend with another guy. I eventually came around to the idea of working things out, only to have my wife decide she wants to live on her own for a while. Even with 2 huge blows, I felt like this story would have a happy ending. It looks like not all fairy tales end that way. I hope throwing away our marriage is worth the cheap thrills you're getting from being able to date again. Update. After 11 weeks of dealing with my WS and her ambivalence, I finally made her decide between the guys she was dating during her newfound freedom or our marriage. She chose the guys. A few days later, she tells me she's having second thoughts. After about a week of talking off and on about reconciliation, I got tired of the game and insisted again, she chose me or the dating life. For the second time in 11 days she chose being free. I'm well aware I'm an idiot for ever believing she would actually want to work things out. Twice. I allowed my codependency get the best of me for 3 months, but now it's really over. I'm starting back up the divorce paperwork and getting her out of my life. What I'm having a horrible time with right now is the crippling reality of a failed marriage and being rejected by the woman I love. Rejected twice. How have you gotten over the thoughts of your WS with someone else? She has a guy she told me she considers her boyfriend. He's going to be at her family Thanksgiving. The same family that would have always come to our home on Christmas Eve will now be spending it with him. I absolutely know I am doing the right thing. There is zero doubt. But the pain of being cheated on, and then she essentially chose this guy over me, it's so painful. I don't know how to survive this. Update. Yesterday was the final hearing for our divorce. Exactly 5 months to the day from when I found out she cheated. This was something that needed to happen, but it still hurt like hell. When we left the lawyer's office, she hugged me and said she hopes I find happiness. I do too. We turned and walked away from each other for the last time, both with tears in our eyes. She was the one person I was sure I'd spend the rest of my life with. It didn't happen. So while this is my new start, my chance to find someone who will treat me and my daughter the way we're meant to be treated, it's still a very somber time. The pain of what she's done to me won't soon go away. The ability to trust again will be the hardest to regain. She took more from me than she knows. Cheating is the cruelest way to tell someone you don't love them anymore.